am a Jedi, like my father before me.
Silly Jedi! Silly Jedi!
Remember, the Force will be with you, always.
You must unlearn what you have learned.
Hello, what have we here?
Hello there.
At last! Where have you been?
Nice of you guys to drop by.
Ah, good. New acquisitions.
I don't know. I have a bad feeling about this.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Star Wars Car Talk. I'm Maurice from Jedi Toy Masters. If you're not following us on Instagram, what are you waiting for? We're at Jedi Toy Masters. And yes, this is Star Wars Car Talk, our official podcast where I talk Star Wars in the car, maybe one day with a guest. That's why you see that empty seat next to me. And if you see this empty seat next to me, that means you're watching us on YouTube. So thank you so much for watching us on YouTube, on our YouTube channel at Jedi Toy Masters. We have a playlist dedicated to these shows, as well as some of the other videos that we put up there. Like sometimes me and my boys go on some toy hunts, or we'll do a toy unboxing, or an impromptu unboxing review, or just some kind of whatever random silly Star Wars video we decide to make. Yeah, that's what we do. We're a Star Wars family, and yeah, this is Star Wars Car Talk. So if you're listening to us in podcast form, thank you so much for tuning in. And everybody always says that at the end. I say it at the top, just to remind you, if you enjoy any of these podcasts and you're listening to us on the Apple Podcast app, or on iTunes, just please write us a review on iTunes. I don't even know how you do it. All I know is that when you write a review on iTunes, it helps the show in the podcasting algorithms. That's all I know. So that's what I'm going to suggest to do. So this week, we, now that the dust has kind of settled a little bit, there was a lot of dirt being kicked up last week from all the Hasbro, HasLab, Hasbro Pulse shenanigans, all these releases, all these announcements, all these promises. Some might say maybe empty promises, but a lot of cool figures, cool things announced. It's just a shame, like I said last week, that this whole pre-ordering system and this pre-ordering culture that we're in now with toys, and it's just kind of silly that we can't just go to a store and just pick up a toy and just see it on the shelves, see it on the peg. Just go to the store with the expectation that, hey, there are Star Wars toys there. Let me go check them out and see what I want to buy. But no, it's not like that at all. Here in the Northeast, it's really sad. I mean, you go to a Target or a Walmart, and you'll be lucky if you see 3 different types of Star Wars toys. I mean, you'll be lucky if there's 3. My local Walmart and Targets are usually, all you see is like a couple of random Mission Fleet toys, maybe a Dark Saber, maybe even like one random Black Series figure if you're lucky. And then just like a lot of Grogu toys, a lot of Grogu dolls. I mean, at this point, they flooded the market with Grogu, and everybody has a Grogu. So it's like everybody that's a Star Wars fan, one way or another, we all bought a Grogu. We either got the big doll, the little doll, the tiny doll, whatever, little figure. Everybody's got a Grogu now, so they just keep putting more Grogus out there. But I think at this point, what's going to happen is that you're going to get a lot of customizers that are just going to start buying up all these Grogus and start customizing them. Maybe make a whole species of Grogus, evil Grogu, and kind of like Care Bears. Each Care Bear is a different character, or each, like Ewoks, how each Ewok is so different and has personality. How about we just take all these Grogu dolls and make them into that species, whatever that species is? I don't know. It's just an idea. But I don't want to talk toys this week, per se, although the toys are a big part of Star Wars and are a big part of the fandom. I was thinking the other day just how amazing it is that we live in a time that we can flick on Disney Plus and have access to, you know, all this new Star Wars content. I mean, we just wrapped up a season of The Bad Batch. You know, we have the Clone Wars, the entire series of the Clone Wars, including the amazing final season of Clone Wars that was released. We have Star Wars Rebels, which is another great Star Wars show, animated as well. I mean, we even have Star Wars Resistance with, you know, I'm not a fan of the sequel trilogy, and this is an animated series that's directly connected to the sequel trilogy. It's a kind of like a tough pill to swallow in a way, but it's fun, you know, and it's somewhat entertaining. And you have the promise of these new Star Wars shows, and then we have 2 seasons of The Mandalorian on there too. So it's pretty amazing that we have that, and that we're going to continue to get fresh Star Wars content. But then we're also like have access to, you know, the Ewoks cartoon and droids and the Clone Wars micro series. But then we also have the prequel trilogy and the original trilogy, and the sequel trilogy too. But the fact that we just have access to all of this, we take it for granted. We just take it for granted as fans. And I think we've become a little bit kind of like, we're so used to this fast food version of Star Wars. We're like, I'm hungry again. I want Star Wars again. Give me more Star Wars. Give me more Star Wars. And we kind of forget that there was a time where we didn't have anything that was Star Wars. So I want to take a little trip back down memory lane and talk a little bit about, you know, the dark times before the Empire, before Disney came along and gave us access to Star Wars 24/7. And my personal, my personal little journey through the Star Wars films and accessing Star Wars as a kid. So I've shared bits and pieces of this story, but I originally I came to know about Star Wars really through The Empire Strikes Back. My earliest memory of Star Wars is kind of a combination of watching The Empire Strikes Back, and then also I had a cousin who I had cousins that they were older than me, and excuse me, they were, you know, they had all the toys that I wanted. Basically, they had all the cool G.I. Joe figures. They had the Darth Vader case full of figures, and they would record the Star Wars movies off cable. And my cousin, one of my older cousins, who was an artist, he would take that VHS box that they just recorded Star Wars on, and he would kind of like paste construction paper or like some kind of cardstock on top of the VHS box, and then he would create his own artwork for the movie. Like, he had a custom artwork that he would do for all these recorded movies from TV. And I just remember seeing the box for the Star Wars movies that he made. And then I also remember being at like a house party with my parents and a friend of my dad's, and like seeing like some videotapes, you know, because I mean, you got to remember, like, we're talking early 80s, early to mid 80s, where like VHS tapes and VCRs and all this stuff, this was like new technology. This was exciting new technology. And like anybody that had a VCR, it was like, oh my gosh. And then if you had tapes, if you had movie tapes, that was just like amazing. So I remember as a kid, I remember seeing this like VHS box for Star Wars. And it was for A New Hope. And it was like, it was like a bootleg but it was so well done. I mean, I was a little kid. I didn't know any better. And to this day, I've done Google searches image searches for Star Wars and New Hope, like early 80s bootleg box art. And just to track down this image that I have in my head where I remember seeing this bootleg tape that he had of Star Wars. And I thought it was so fascinating that he had it. Of course, that was my first realization that there was a Star Wars movie that came before Empire Strikes Back, because I had seen Empire Strikes Back on cable TV a bunch of times. I was obsessed with that movie. I remember recording it on a VHS tape and watching it over and over again. Excuse me, it's early. And then I remember discovering, A New Hope. Although I didn't know it was A New Hope, I just figured, I just thought it was Star Wars, and this was Empire Strikes Back. And it was just fascinating to me, like then I watched A New Hope, and it's funny because I don't really have like the memory of watching A New Hope for the first time. Like I think my dad might have rented it for me, and I just kind of sat and watched it, and I think I was a little bored by it, to be quite honest. I mean, I know that sounds horrible, but yeah, the first time I saw A New Hope, like I was a little bored by it until the end battle. And the only other time I've ever felt like that with a Star Wars movie was actually Rogue One. Like Rogue One, watching it the first time was exciting because it was so new, but every time after that, when I watch Rogue One, whether it's just randomly I'll put it on, or when my boys saw it for the first time, I gotta admit, like the first 3/4 of that movie are kind of a slow burn to me. It really doesn't pick up until they get to Scarif and that end battle and that the climax, And I think, and it was the same with A New Hope. I remember watching the end battle, like a little bit of the end battle at my cousin's house because it was on TV. I think it was like Star Wars was like a Saturday night movie on ABC or something one night, or NBC, and I just remember like, wow, this is so cool. And then that became that got my curiosity going as far as like wanting to watch the original Star Wars. But yeah, like I just remember just being excited about the end battle and the music and everything, but everything leading up to that was a little boring to me. Empire, on the other hand, was just start to finish like such a fascinating movie, and because it was such an emotional movie, there's a lot of like strong themes, a lot of dark stuff happening in that movie, and because I was such a I was maybe 4 years old. I was maybe 4 or 5. It had a huge impact on me, and it really it was this like emotional thing. Like I had an emotional connection to that movie because of it, because of the themes and just how strong that movie was. Then my dad rented Return of the Jedi, and that was super exciting because I got to experience the anticipation of like sitting down to watch it. And I remember having this little TV with a giant VCR in my room. I remember, I think it was like maybe a Friday night. I remember sitting after dinner, after taking a bath and everything, fixing my little plate, like a little snack or something, might have been like milk and cookies or something, and just sitting down and hitting play and watching Return of the Jedi for the first time. And it's funny because I can picture my room as a kid, and I can picture how I must have looked sitting either in a chair or like sitting on my bed and watching it. The TV was like on the dresser across from my bed. But when I think about the first time I watched it, like it's just like once I turned that on, everything else turned black in my room, and it was just, my focus was just on that little tiny 13-inch TV. No widescreen, no special edition, no THX, it was just this VHS copy that we rented, and watching it for the first time and being just engulfed in it, and how much fun it was compared to Empire. The Ewoks, the whole thing, it was a joyride. And after that, it was just amazing. Now, unfortunately, you see, like that, this was the beginning of the dark times with Star Wars. So this was like 84, 85. There was no more Star Wars out there. There was no hope for new movies or any more toys or anything like that. It was years before we got books and stuff. So this was just this little tiny chapter in my life. I was 4 or 5 years old. Maybe it was 5 or 6, something like that. So it was maybe like 84, 85, or maybe even 86. One of those 3 years. But maybe 85, because that was like a really big year for me getting into movies, because there was a lot of stuff out. And that was it. Like, I had that little tiny season that year of like experiencing Star Wars, and then it was gone. I mean, of course, I probably watched them a bunch of times on tape, at home, on cable. Whenever it was on, I would watch it. But then after that, like, I moved on. I moved on back to G.I. Joe. Now back to G.I. Joe. Like, I was back to G.I. Joe because G.I. Joe was it. The toy stores were full of G.I. Joe toys. Every afternoon, I'd come home from school. Guess what? G.I. Joe was on every single day, Monday through Friday. And Masters of the Universe as well. That Masters of the Universe was kind of like my second love, because G.I. Joe kind of took over. And then once G.I. Joe started to slow down, I got older, and all my friends, we were all into Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and that was like the late 80s. It was all about turtle power and the toys and the cartoon as well. And G.I. Joe, and I mean Star Wars, just kind of faded into the background. But it was always with me. It was always this thing that I just... And fast forward to like the mid-90s. Now you're fast forwarding 10 years after that. 10 years later, I'm now a teenager. I'm now 14, 15 years old. And out of nowhere, seemingly, Star Wars is back. I see commercials for the toys. I see the toys popping up in the store. There's this Shadows of the Empire book announced, and it's like a book and a comic and a game, and there's toys, and it's kind of talking about like it's the story that took place in between Empire and Return of the Jedi. And this was so like, what? Like, I mean, there was no internet. We didn't have anywhere to go to find out about this stuff. There was entertainment magazines, and little things like that. But there was nowhere to actually go and look this stuff up or talk to anybody about it. It was like, just listening to people's random rumors in the playground. Nobody knew anything. But the toys were back. And then we hear the promise of that there will be more Star Wars movies, and it was because of this re-release of the original trilogy on VHS, the remastered THX box set. And in there you see George Lucas being interviewed, and he's talking about the prequels, and he mentions the prequels and how he's writing the prequels, and he's gonna do them back to back. And it's a story of Anakin and how he became Darth Vader, and a young Obi-Wan and their adventures. And those comments, along with just the fact that they re-released the trilogy in better quality, or what we thought was better quality, VHS, THX, whatever. And then of course the toys. You see, that's the thing. You always have, George Lucas kind of learned his lesson with A New Hope. The movie was as popular, the toys were as popular as the movie, have always been as popular as the movie. And with the announcement of new movies and new stories came the release of the toys, new toys. And I just remember watching them with my brother, getting him into Star Wars. I remember going to one of my local malls, and they had there was like kind of like a little toy fair in the main atrium of the mall, and there were just tons of vendors, and there was tons of Power of the Force 2 Star Wars figures, along with people selling their vintage Star Wars figures. And this is where like the price of figures started to go up, like for the vintage figures, because it was like before that people just had these toys in their attics, you know, in the garage in a box or whatever, you know. These were just like, you know, hand-me-down toys, and now all of a sudden these things started to gain value. And I just remember saving up my money and buying a bunch of figures for my brother for Christmas. And we opened them up on Christmas. He opened up this box, and it was like a bunch of figures. I think maybe like 10 figures, something like that, in a box. And he was so excited. And soon after that, we find out that the special editions were coming out, and we went. You know, I would leave school during lunch, go to the theater, buy the tickets in advance, come back to school, and then, you know, after school, like pick up, you know, eat real quick with my brother, and then at this point I was driving, then we'd drive to the theater or get dropped off at the theater, and we watched the special editions, just me and my brother. And that was another amazing experience, because it was the first time I got to see Star Wars on the big screen. And say what you will about the special editions, whether you love them, you hate them, or you're indifferent to them or whatever, but I loved them. It was because it was breathing new life into something that hadn't been around in such a long time. And it was just fresh and new and exciting. They weren't perfect, but the Star Wars movies were never perfect. So we saw the special editions, and of course, the minute you leave the theater, what's the first thing you want to do? You want to go to the toy store and see if there's any toys. And surely enough, with the special editions came more toys. You see there's always you have a movie release, and then with it you have a big toy release. This is something that Hasbro and Disney need to learn. You have the release of a movie, and in these days it was movies. There was no TV shows. And then you have a big release of toys. You fill the toy stores with toys. The more toys people buy and go see at the store, the more hype they get for the thing that they're going to go watch. We don't see that as much anymore. But yeah, so and that kind of kickstarted our love of we were literally going to Toys R Us every week and just looking at the toys, looking at the Star Wars, looking at all the Star Wars stuff on pegs. We would buy maybe one or two. We were buying like at least 1 to 2 figures a week, and like literally every week we would go to Toys R Us, buy 1 or 2 figures to add to our collection. And it got to the point where then my brother kind of said, well, I don't want to open these anymore. What if we just keep them closed and just enjoy them, just looking at them, and we'll store them and we'll collect them. And that's what we started doing. Then years went by, and it's funny because then that was late 90s, and then soon after that, the prequels then were like on the verge of coming out, and that was another exciting time. So that was like back to back. You had the special editions in 97. You had a year to breathe, 98, and then 99, May of 99, boom, episode 1. And say what you will about the prequels, yeah, they weren't perfect, yeah, they were a little disappointing, yeah, the stories could have been better, the dialogue could have been better. There's so many things that could have been better. I know. I hear the complaints, and I agree, but it still doesn't stop me from loving them. Again, because they're really connected. that's the thing about these movies, is that you can't rate them and classify them the way you do any other film series or any other film. Like, Star Wars movies have this unique ability that whether they're good or bad, whether everybody likes them or everybody hates them, if you like Star Wars, then the experience of watching that movie for the first time, or watching it for the second time, or watching it for the third time, is directly connected to that time in your life. So then years later, there's this like nostalgic effect that Star Wars has, where years later you watch that movie again and it brings you back to that time when you first watched it. See, like, I watched The Phantom Menace, and now I look at it with different eyes. I saw it with excited eyes, hyped eyes when I first saw it in '99. And then over the years, the more I watched it, the more I was disappointed by it. I saw it with critical eyes. But now, years later, there's enough time has passed that now when I look back on it and when I watch it, I look at it with fond eyes, with nostalgic eyes. Like, I look at it and I remember going to the midnight show. I remember buying the tickets earlier that week, the advance tickets, having a pre-calculus, a calculus final in my first semester of college, and literally standing on line outside the theater, studying for this exam, and having my one of our friends come and stand on the line for us, so that me and my other friend could go take our final and then come back, and our friend actually stayed on the line and bought the tickets for us. And then I remember going to that midnight show with a group of friends, and just that theater, the electricity, so many people were dressed up. It was so exciting. We couldn't even sit near each other because it was so packed, the theater. We just grabbed whatever seat we could. I don't even remember who I was sitting next to, but it was just like nobody cared. It was just, we were all Star Wars fans and we were all excited. I remember the next day, because I bought 2 tickets, I remember then the next day taking my brother to see it and watching it with him and experiencing that excitement all over again through his eyes. I remember feeling so excited at the end of that movie, because it's like, oh wow, the way it leaves, you kind of see that Anakin, he's maturing, he's going to be trained by Obi-Wan, what's going to happen next? You know, oh my gosh, Chancellor Palpatine, that's Emperor Palpatine, and we don't know this, nobody knows this yet, what's going to happen? And there was so much excitement, and your imagination ran wild with where the story could go and how it could be. And then we had to wait. We actually had to wait, like not a year and a half. We had to wait like 3 years. That was 1999. Attack of the Clones didn't come out until like 2001 or 2002, actually. No, 2002. So like we had to wait 3 years. And in the meantime, we had like janky internet. Everybody's internet was horrible. StarWars.com was like a brand new thing. They would release these little images every now and then, these little snippets, these little vignettes, and you would watch them and be like, oh my gosh, this is so exciting. What's it going to be like? What's it going to be like episode 2? And then in 2002, we got to experience it all over again. That excitement for this new movie. And not to mention that in between, the toys never went anywhere. The stores were always filled with toys. Episode 1 toys mixed in with Power of the Force 2 and Balance of the Force and all these other lines were in there. The stores were flooded with Star Wars toys. And some stuff got in the clearance bins. Some figures didn't really pan out from episode 1. But you still saw toys for Star Wars in stores. You know, they were all in. Attack of the Clones comes out. No exception. More toys came out. And that movie was exciting too. Maybe it wasn't as exciting as you thought, because you had 3 years to build up this anticipation of where you think the story was going to go, and rumors and everybody's coming up with their own rumors and story ideas. So of course, that we kind of shot ourselves in the foot, because it didn't live up to the expectation we had in our heads. But it was new Star Wars, and it was like exciting. And again, Attack of the Clones was one of those movies where, yeah, again, 3/4 of it, you're just like, okay. But then that climax with that beginning of the Clone Wars, that's what we were waiting for. This was the beginning of the Clone Wars. And then we got to wait 3 more years. 3 more years from 2002 to 2005 before we got to see Revenge of the Sith. And Revenge of the Sith was just such another take. I mean, at that point, it's 2005. I'm 25 years old at this point. I'm at this point, I'm engaged. You know, I go to see it with my then fiance and my brother and my brother-in-law, my future brother-in-laws too. And like, wow, what a difference, you know, years makes from 1985-ish, seeing Return of the Jedi for the first time by myself with my plate of milk and cookies, to 2005, watching the last Star Wars movie, the completion of the Skywalker saga in the theater with my fiance and my brother, who didn't exist when I saw it in 85. So what a difference that all makes. And again, see, these memories, it's not so much about the movie and the story, whether it was good or bad. It's the fact that it's Star Wars and we love Star Wars. And these are the memories that we have from those times periods. So each movie is like a little time capsule in itself. And now, that was 2005. Then we kind of hit a little bit of a dark time again. But it was really a dark time, a self-imposed dark time, because we did have Star Wars content. We just a lot of us just chose not to ignore it. I mean, there was a lot of books, a lot of video games, and then we had the Clone Wars cartoon too. We had the micro series and then the Clone Wars with Dave Filoni and George Lucas at the helm. And I'll admit, it took me a while to get into that show. I wasn't really into it. I didn't really have the time to kind of sit every week and watch them. It was hard for me to get into it, to schedule it in. I didn't have a DVR or anything like that. I didn't have the ability to kind of record episodes and watch them back. My brother did kind of watch a little bit, but then we life happens. You get busy, and it was different. At that point we stopped collecting the toys. Like my brother would pick up a figure here and there. He kind of kept going. He would tell me, hey man, like, look at this, like, I picked up a couple figures over the weekend or whatever, and I'd be like, oh, okay, that's cool, but like, I'm kind of done, priorities, right? Like life. And then that's it, until we get news in 2012 that Star Wars is coming back, that Disney is going to buy Star Wars and own Star Wars, and that we're going to get 3 new Star Wars movies, that we're going to get episodes 7, 8, and 9, and more Star Wars content beyond that. And that was amazing. I got that news. That was 2012. Now I'm a brand new father. 2012, I have a 4-month-old when I get that news. And I have friends from Florida that are visiting and are actually stranded in our apartment with us with their 4-month-old, because we're in the middle of a hurricane here in New York, Hurricane Sandy, during that time. And I get that news. I get 2 news. I get good news and bad news. So here, the memory that I have for that is, I'm watching the news and we find out, George Lucas sells Lucasfilm and Star Wars to Disney. Disney promises there will be new Star Wars movies beginning in 2015. And then and I'm like, amazing. And then my phone rings and it's my coworker who says, hey, guess what? Hurricane Sandy completely flooded our office. Our office that was on the lower level of the building was under 5 feet of water. We lost everything, our computers, our equipment, my camera, everything gone. So stay put, stay home, stay safe. We don't know what's going to happen. And so it was like this weird moment of like, wow, I'm super bummed about like my job situation, but I'm super excited that we're gonna get new Star Wars. And at the same time, like during that time, moving forward, I kept seeing, you know, little bits of Star Wars toys still out there. And, you know, there was a Clone Wars stuff. And then Play School started making a lot of Star Wars things. And I started to buy things up. And now at that point, I'm like, Star Wars is coming back and it's here to stay. And that was the beginning of Jedi Toy Masters. Because even though I didn't start the Instagram account or the YouTube channel until years later, that was really the beginning of it. That was the genesis of it, because it was like, okay, well then I need to get back into Star Wars and get back into it and get back into the toys and get back into the whole thing. Not just for me and for my love of Star Wars, but for the future love of Star Wars that my son will have. At that point, I just had one boy, you know, or one baby, and I just started buying him Star Wars things. He was listening to Star Wars music even when he was in the womb. I had headphones on my wife's belly, pumping John Williams in there, Star Wars and Superman. And, you know, by the time 2015 came around and The Force Awakens came around, we had two boys. So it was just like even more of a reason to pass on to. And of course, Force Awakens was an amazing experience as well. You know, I say what you will about the sequel trilogy. I know I'm not a big fan of the sequel trilogy, but The Force Awakens was an exciting movie to go watch. It was super exciting leading up to it. I got to see it a day early because a friend of mine from church won tickets to it. And he's like, well, I don't know anybody else that likes Star Wars except this guy Maurice from church that I barely know. And he called me out of the blue and said, hey man, you know I heard you're into Star Wars. I got these tickets to go see The Force Awakens tomorrow night. Like, do you want to go with me? And I was like, absolutely. And I like got out of work early, you know, took the train down into the city, and we went to go, and I got to see Star Wars with him, the Force Awakens, a day early. The next day, I literally took the day off work, and I went to go see it twice after that. I saw it early that day with my wife and my brother-in-law. We saw it early because at that point my boys were in preschool, and then I had to like stop short because there was a car in front of me. Sorry guys. And then I saw it that night again with my brother, kind of continuing that tradition of watching it with my brother. So yeah, that was another exciting time because it was just like, man, here I am, you know, I have two sons now, and I'm watching another Star Wars movie in theaters. Last Jedi, Rogue One came out, right? Rogue One, that's when things kind of changed a little bit, because now, like, really, my boys were too little to go to the theater, take them to the theater to see these the other Star Wars movies. So I saw Rogue One with my brother, I think, I saw Rogue One with my wife. Then Last Jedi, we saw at like a dinner, one of these eat-in theaters with my wife. And see, these are like more like memorable because these were kind of like date night adventures that I got to do with my wife. And Solo, again, see, like Rogue One, Last Jedi, and Solo, those were all like date nights with my wife. So those are kind of special to me in the sense that I got to just watch it with her and just experience it without the anticipation, without having to go to a midnight show, without any of that. It was like grown up going to watch Star Wars. But then the rise of Skywalker, the so-called conclusion of the Skywalker saga, that's the one that was, even though the movie wasn't as great as I had hoped, it was a great experience because that one I got to experience. At that point, we were Jedi Toy Masters. We were full-blown Jedi Toy Masters. The Instagram account was popping. The YouTube channel was up. And that one we got to go see as a Star Wars family. We all got to see it. So that was the first Star Wars movie we all got to see in theaters together. All three boys with my wife and I. And that was cool. And that's it. Like, that's my Star Wars viewing memories. And in between, I didn't mention that, like in between, you know, like my boys got into Star Wars because we kind of started watching them over the course of a year and a half. We watched all the movies with them. And I actually did it in the, episodes, we did original trilogy. We did them in release order. We did original trilogy, prequel trilogy, and then we did the sequel trilogy and like the Star Wars stories, you know, Rogue One and Solo. And then we took a whole year to basically watch Clone Wars together. And it was fresh for me because I don't remember like how many episodes I watched of Clone Wars. And and here we are today. Now my boys are obsessed with Star Wars. They're obsessed with Clone Wars. They love the Bad Batch. They love the Mandalorian. It's become our thing whenever it's on. It's our weekly thing that we do together. They love going on toy hunts with me. They love the idea of collecting Star Wars. They understand that Dad has a lot of Star Wars toys, and some of them are not to be opened, and some of them are to be opened. The little one still struggles with that idea, but you know, yeah, we are a Star Wars family, and it's funny because it all started with me just, you know, catching Empire Strikes Back on cable, being fascinated by it, having my older cousins kind of introduce me to what the toys were at that time, and going out of my way to watch A New Hope, and then watch Empire again, and then, you know, get to watch Return of the Jedi and experience the original trilogy, and just over the years just keep watching that original trilogy over and over again. I mean, I didn't mention this, but like you know, even though I was into other things, I was always watching the trilogy, you know, time and time again. Every so often, I don't remember how often, but like every once in a while, like I would just watch them all back to back again. So it always was this thing, like this magical series of movies that I would just always go back to. But that's my Star Wars experience, guys. I hope you enjoyed listening to my little journey, and I would love to hear your guys' journey through Star Wars, because I know there's so many different stories now. Like, you know, there's people that just their first Star Wars experience was watching Clone Wars, and then from Clone Wars they jumped onto the movies. Some people watched the prequels for the first time in theater with their parents and grew up on those. So that's pretty cool. And I like all the diversity of the stories and the how we all come to Star Wars in different ways. But at the end of the day, we're all fans and we all love this thing. And it brings memories to the surface, and it hopefully brings good memories and joy. So if you want to share your Star Wars stories, viewing adventure with us, hit me up on Instagram at Jedi Toy Masters. You can comment below here on YouTube, and let's continue the conversation in the comments. But I love Star Wars, man. You know, we may not agree with how it's being handled or with certain storylines or characters or whatever, but at the end of the day, we always have that original trilogy and the prequels to go back to, and we have the toys to go back to. Really, the toys are the way that we can continue the stories the way we want them to be. Using your imagination, being creative. I mean, it's multifaceted, man. It's like Star Wars is such a multifaceted thing. It's legend, it's timeless, it's fairy tale, they are modern myths. I mean, it's beautiful. So what do you think? Do you agree? Do you disagree? Let me know in the comments. Hit me up on Instagram at Jedi Toy Masters. Check out some of our other videos. Please click subscribe, click the like button, write us a review on iTunes, all those good things to help get us noticed a little bit. And but guys, thanks for listening, thanks for watching, and remember,
The Force will be with you, always.